Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call on Sunday, October 8, 2023, after 3:15 p.m. Eastern. I used to dislike being sensitive as I thought it made me weak. But take away that single trait, and you take away the very essence of who I am. Caitlin Jeppa. Meandering through the vicissitudes of life as an emotionally sensitive person isn't such an easy human task. When people get upset about something you said or did, you can feel as if your whole being is wrong or triggering them. The overly sensitive mind can also tend to over-worry about details and is perpetually trying to find ways to make the future 100% safe, and sincere and secure. Now, let's say that you're a empath, and you're super sensitive to many things. You can become energetically hard and cold in order to emotionally distance yourself from the chaos of this world. Now, if you didn't do that, you would be constantly influenced by others' internal dramas and feel super anxious, causing yourself to unnecessarily or incessantly bite fingernails. Now, have you ever seen people where you just notice that their fingernails are really short where they bite them. Now, if you remember the lockdown in 2020, it seemed like everybody was freaking out. And all of their stress, especially with empaths and super sensitive people, would cause you to suffer more. And whenever you were triggered by others, you would notice one common theme with your internal dialogue, that your mind believed that they should be speaking, feeling, and behaving differently than how they were. The mind can be very judgmental in moments and can think super black and white thoughts about life. It can believe that this is the right way things should be done and said, and definitely not the other way. This is because the mind truly believes it knows how to find the ultimate happiness and freedom. Yet, every single time you would follow your mind and become attached to its expectations, demands, and assumptions about anything, you would end up rediscovering the magical formula for creating more suffering. Sometimes it really can seem like your mind was not paying any attention at all. So if you're sensitive, and a lot of people are, but a lot of people don't show it. Well, yeah, it's kind of hard to read them, let's put it that way. And we are all emotional beings. You get some people that have put up such a rock-solid wall that they act like nothing ever phases them. And it's internalized. So they carry all that inside them, and they suffer within. But on the outside, they're a blank page. So you really can't put a finger on it. Now, when you look at this planet and you see all the different variants of people, you've got psychics and you've got empaths and you've got clairvoyance and all kinds of sensitivity insights and energetic physical patterns and all of its frequency. Now, if you look at when you become emotional, and if you're able to see your rhythm, so to speak, your frequencies within the body, you would see them that they were all bunched up and constricted and vibrating at a erratic energy. When we get upset, our whole physical body changes in an instant. You could be feeling lighthearted and good, which we know is high frequency. Your frequencies are smooth and eased and not erratic and bunched. And so you just feel good. Something can come in, anything. It could be the smallest thing that triggers you. And then you become irritated. Everybody shows it differently. Angry, upset, stressed. The stress element comes in immediately. And I bet you that sometimes you've experienced the fact that you just don't, you're not right. You don't feel like you're balanced for a day, and you're irritable the whole day, and you can't figure it out. You can't put a finger on it. I say ego mind literally saturating you with other people's thoughts. And then you get frustrated. Now, this is a subconscious or even unconscious response. Or a dream could have triggered it that you don't remember. See, we dream every single night. All of us do. And people say, well, I don't dream because I don't remember any of my dreams, so I'm not dreaming. But you are. Other people remember everything with clarity. Every dream they have. It doesn't make anybody better than anybody else. It's just how it's perceived and interacted with. So when anybody says that, they don't dream at all, they don't know the fact that they're always dreaming. They just don't have recollection of it. And this is the erratic energy field of the ego mind. The ego mind is erratic. It is undisciplined. It's everywhere. Striving and pulling and taking and wanting and desiring and manipulating and anger and happiness and pain and sorrow and joy. It's everywhere. It's just like flailing all over the place. Now imagine that many of us, that's our boss, so to speak. Isn't that a riot? The ego mind is our boss through this life. And it dictates to us. It might be subliminally. It might be blatantly. But it's kind of like that feeling that it's telling you something when you're up in the head. And most of the time, we're up in the head. The heart mind, most people don't have the time to focus on the heart mind. And that's where everything is. And the heart mind connects us to the gods that we are within the body, the pure consciousness, the light force energy. So what happens when we're in the embrace of the ego mind? We go in every direction. And it's not like we realize it, but we're going in every direction. We're literally flailing around, like if you remember the cartoon, I believe it was Looney Tunes, I believe, but they had the Tasmanian devil. And he was, he'd laugh because he would go around slobbering and his tongue was hanging out. He looked like this kind of a furry creature, hairy creature. And he was always slobbering and yelling and, making grunts and noises, and he's spinning around and going here, going there, and just no direction whatsoever. Total mayhem. That's the ego mind. You really want a good understanding of our ego mind, that's it. Now, when you may have noticed on the planet that we have a retention. In other words, our focus or attention to something is short. It doesn't take long for us to just move another way. I'm not interested in that, and I go over here. It's the ego mind. The ego mind has to create things constantly. Have you ever met anybody who was always insecure, no matter what? Have you ever met anybody that you're constantly saying to them, you're beautiful, you're lovely, you're handsome, whatever, you're really good at this, really good, and you're always telling them things to convince them that they're good and talented. And they continually negate that and are constantly berating themselves in certain ways. Okay? That's part of the ego mind, which is highly insecure. And insecure people really exemplify the ego mind because they don't ever feel secure. Now, when you look at the civilization, you can see that. Do you believe that the civilization of this planet is very secure? You kind of got to laugh because it really isn't. It's the opposite. Many people are insecure. They don't always show it. They hide it because they're afraid of what people might think. That's another kicker there for the ego mind. When you're in the heart mind, none of that has any impact or bearing. None of it at all. And why is that? Well, because you're not representing the body, so to speak. You're the God, and the body is a vessel. And as a God, you don't have this, like in the body, you don't have this worry about what other people think, what they say, what they're going to say, what they're going to do. It doesn't even register. See, this is the reason it's so imperative that we choose to go within, because then we start to discover this. We're mastering the ego mind. That's one of our biggest challenges on this planet, if not the biggest, is to master the ego mind, and eventually it no longer exists. It removes itself. And it's an illusion. It's an illusion. Just like this universe is an illusion. We create illusions, no different than this holographic universe. We create them. We're that powerful. You're creating things 24/7. Now, because you have not mastered the ego mind yet, you're not aware of that. Nor are you truly confident. You have 100% confidence, trust, and faith in yourself. You not yet. Because if you did, you would always be in the heart mind. You would know the ego mind is there. You would watch it, not judge it. You would just watch it. You wouldn't engage it. And people say, well, how the heck do you not engage it? Since it's always there, influencing us. You shift to the heart mind. This is about the only thing you can do. You shift to the heart mind. And people say, well, how do you know? You'll know. You have a peace, contentment that comes over you. Tranquility. You feel it at ease. You have at ease and dis-ease. And everything in these bodies, when we're at dis-ease, it starts from the emotional plane, not physical. It's introduced to the body, then it becomes physical, biological, organic. The only reason that these bodies have dis-ease, because the majority of the people on this planet are not at ease. They're just not, because they're too embraced with the ego mind. Now you wonder why some people just act angry and they strike out to people. You ever had that? You ever been around somebody that for some reason they just are ornery and disrespectful and mean, and it's a reflection of them, not you. It's them. It's what they're in a tug of war with within themselves. You know, they may not like themselves. They may not have liked themselves or loved themselves since day one. Who knows? It doesn't make them less than anyone else. But they're teachers. Okay? And when you begin from a non-judgmental perspective and approach, and you're watching, and you're observing, and you then start picking up on things, they're in turmoil. That person's in turmoil. For whatever reason. You know, someone could lose a loved one and carry that pain and anger and sorrow the rest of their lives, which means that they're abusive to people outside of them. And they don't recognize or identify that. And so people perceive them as ornery, mean, and nasty and disrespectful. And they carry that. Some people carry it, grip onto it with white knuckles all the way through their lives until they leave the body. Some people are afraid to be at ease. So they're always tense. A lot of us experience stresses at different levels throughout our whole lives. And the stresses eat away on the etheric, the spiritual plane, into the body until the body becomes overloaded, and then a dis-ease happens. For instance, none of us on this planet would ever be sick or have any dis-ease if we lived in the heart-mind, if we resided in the heart-mind, we mastered the ego mind. And then, of course, the ego mind goes into the back seat, and then eventually it realizes that it's no longer needed, and then it's gone. Have you come across anybody who has achieved that? Probably not. We don't, all of the many of the prophets, so-called prophets throughout the past, and many we don't know because they've been wiped from the past, didn't achieve that. And people say, well, maybe some of the gurus or the monks or something. No, not completely. Did Buddha? Not completely. Did Christ? No, not completely. And of course, those names, they're not really, there are definitions of what enlightenment means. The enlightened one, the enlightened being, someone who's enlightened. Because we're all enlightened. Most of us don't know it. We don't embrace it. And what is the root disturbance of humanity? What is the root disturbance? Well, you can kind of go with family is the root disturbance. Because remember, when we're in baby body, we're a complete blank slate. Our memories have been wiped from our past life. So we enter the baby body. We do have, at that early stages, we do have remnants, pieces here and there that eventually fade by the time we hit 5 to 7 years old. On rare occasion, it might go longer. But we're empty. We have no information. Think about that. We're pure, clean, unfettered, right? Not diluted. And so we're programmed, we're pumped with things start coming in from the people around us as the body grows. We start, getting programmed. We start getting filled up. Now, if you take a child, and the child is constantly being berated by those that the child looks up to, and the child is constantly berated all the way into adulthood, and they're carrying all that. And so their perspective with themselves is that they're inferior, they're not good enough, they're not going to amount to anything. Their lives are miserable, their relationships are miserable, and that's how they live their lives. Why is that? Because of the programming they received. That's the bottom line. Programming can come in any different form or direction. You listen to people, you're being programmed. You listen to your mother, father, grandparents, brothers, sisters, cousins. You listen to strangers. And you're being programmed. Now, do we know that? No, we don't know that. And so this forms our personality and characters. This is why we have such a diverse range of people. Personalities, characters, different chemistries. That's why. And you begin to learn once you discover who and what you are. And you will discover it. If people haven't yet, they will eventually discover who and what they are in those bodies. It's just a matter of time. As I've often spoke, we were, as a civilization, we were a lot larger than we are now. We lived a lot longer than we do now. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years. And because of the external manipulation from other species that would come to this planet, we are what we are right now, these physical forms. We are what we are right now. And we are conditioned. We are programmed. We're programmed to believe that there are limits. We're programmed to believe that not everything is possible. Right? We're programmed to believe everything. And the programming continues way into adulthood and beyond. And we're so used to being programmed that we really don't know who and what we are. We have ideas of who and what we are, or what we think we are. And most people don't know that they are not this suit. What's the difference between a being that discovers who and what they are, and is on the path by choosing to be of self-discovery, where they begin to understand that they are really a God in the body, that there's no debating it, that at first it's debated, they debate it, at first it's uncomfortable, it doesn't feel right, and then eventually they start realizing that that's exactly what they are. Then the rest of discovery comes. That, staying in the now, in the beginning is difficult. It's really difficult for someone to stay in the now, because the ego mind, they're so used to being controlled by the ego mind, not even knowing that they are controlled by the ego mind, and directed, and manipulated. So when they find out that when they're in the now, that the mind chatter, all those thoughts are gone, that the worries, stresses, fears, anxieties are gone, don't exist. And so slowly but surely they start saying, I'm going to stay in the now as much as I can. I face all my fears head on with childlike curiosity, so I don't carry those fears. They bubble up with all of us. All of us have these fears that'll bubble up. Some light, some not so light, some just hang there. You ever have that? Where they just hang there. No matter what you do, they're still there. So you turn around and say, okay, we're not going to do this anymore, fear. Let's sit down. I'm curious to know why you're still around. And you have these conversations with yourself. And you might say, well, why am I having this fear? You're not going to know until you face the fear. And with your childlike curiosity, you'll find out why you have the fear, why you're embracing it, why it keeps hanging around. And once you do, you'll find it just completely vanishes. It dissolves. And after a while, less and less fears are flooding in. Because you know they're coming from the ego mind. You know that they're a thought. And they don't have any influence on you until you give them that ability. You bring them in. And you create them into reality, and then you experience them. And it's interesting because some people, when you say to them, whatever happens to you in this life, you created it. And a lot of people argue that. A lot of people will say, well, I didn't ask somebody to rape me. No, but you were at a certain position in time that you were in that space, and so therefore you had a lot to do with creating it. But we fight that. See, we argue with ourselves or others and say, no, that's not possible. No, I didn't do that. I had nothing to do with creating that situation. Right? Now, example. Woman in a busy city, young lady, young gal, likes to dress a certain way. Is happy how she looks, and is wearing clothing that might be viewed not by her, but by others as being provocative. And that's not her intention. She likes, in most cases, she likes to look that way, and she feels good about it, and that's it. So that energy creates, in the field of where she's at, someone else to be drawn to that, and not a pleasant way. And what are they doing? They're creating for themselves the confrontation. And then that happens. Now, it's like, we know that like Disneyland, Disney World, Universal Studios, all these parks, theme parks that have been built are literally gathering areas to steal children. And that's a fact. We know that. So the parents bring the kids there. And they create the exposure for that to happen because of the fact that they're ignorant to what's actually happening there and why that is there. And the diversion is the entertainment and the fun that you receive out of it. That's the diversion, distraction. But a lot of people are figuring it out that this is why they built these, so that you'd bring the children there and the children could be picked and taken away. It's always being in a place, or putting yourself in a place, or your children in a place that creates that. So it's not like something somewhere is coming down upon you. Some force out there is battering you or causing your life to be miserable. That is total false. But it's what the ego mind sells you. It's you. Because 24/7, you're creating everything. Creating your life, creating every day, every second, every moment. You're creating it. And since you're not the master of the ego mind yet, because you really are, but you don't know it yet, and you haven't literally engaged yourself with that understanding, so what happens is things happen in your life. And you really don't correlate it and say, okay, why did I create this? Why did I create this? Some people they take a drive. They drive. After a while, they're in a place for a long period of time, and they take a certain route, right? They go to the grocery store. They go here. They go here. But after a while, that's the routes they take every single day. Could be for years. And then one morning they say, I'm going to take that road. I'm going to, just to be different, I'm going to go down that road. And because they decided to do that, next thing you know, they're in a car wreck, accident. Might not be familiar with the surroundings or whatever, even though they've been in that town for years. And that happens. Or they get up in the morning and they are kind of displaced. So they're not really focused on the moment and doing things, so they're not paying attention to things. And so they get their vehicle, and next thing you know, they're in a fender bender, or they get, something happens. But they don't believe or identify the fact that, well, because of this, I put myself in this position to have this happen. Now, when we become aware of who and what we are, and we're in the now, that begins to disappear. Whenever we hurry, things happen. You ever notice that? They don't have to be catastrophic or huge, but you ever notice that things happen when you become hurried? You drop things, right? You might cut yourself because you're not paying attention, because you're in a hurry and you're trying to rush through things because you might be late for something, right? We've all done that. None of us are exempt from it. But this is where the danger comes in. When we rush, and I've stated before, and hurry, it damages the soul. That's quite interesting, isn't it? Now, people say, well, how would you know that? When a soul, let's say somebody that just hurries through life, misses many things, like the rabbit. And the tortoise, the rabbit, is just constantly running, not looking around, not seeing anything, not enjoying life, not enjoying the beauty. All it cares about is making the finish line and winning. That's the rat race, okay, on this planet. So we miss all the wonderful occurrences and events along the way because we want to win. We want to finish. We want to get somewhere. And that's programming. Are we aware of it? No, we're not. No. But you don't feel good about it. You feel uneasy when you're in a hurry and you're rushing. Don't you? Heart rate goes up. Blood pressure goes up. Respiratory system, breathing goes up. You miss things. You might, stub your toe or hit your head or, miss a stop sign or a red light. A lot of things can happen. And it's very difficult for people to slow down. You know why? Because the human psyche, society dictates to them, you can't be late. It's disrespectful. You get fired. You're going to be reprimanded. You're going to be punished. You can't be late about anything. So you got to hurry. So you ever been in a situation where you slept in, right? And you kind of looked at the alarm clock and you just said, "Oh, I got plenty of time." And so you just fall asleep and then you wake up and you slept 2 hours over. And what happens? And say you got a job, and you have to go somewhere and do something on that day or that morning, and you're running 2 hours late. Happens, or even half an hour, or even 10 minutes. What do? You go into overdrive. You jump out of bed. You're running around. I got to get ready. I got to get going. I can't afford to be this late, and all that comes rushing in. That's the ego mind. When you live as the body and not the God, that's what happens. And the soul suffers. So after a long period of time, some of the souls, have to be cocooned because they've expended a lot of energy, and the rushing, since the soul hasn't been able to experience much because people are just constantly rushing through life. Have you ever you've had a busy whatever, doing this, doing that, and you sit down and you just go, and you say to yourself, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit here and be. I'm not going to do a thing. I know I got to do things. I got to do this and that. But I'm just not, right now, I'm just going to chill the rest of the day and night. And I'm not going to be concerned on all the other stuff that needs to get done. Okay? This is how we get caught up. But you get swept away with all the things that are beeping and buzzing outside of us in this world. All the activities, all the things happening and going on, it's overload. It's an emotional overload for humanity. People just get overfilled with what? What do they get overfilled with? Worry, stress, and fear. Now that energy, that frequency of worry, stress, and fear spreads all over the place. So where you're worrying, stressing, and fearing about whatever, right, out there, it's like you're showering or bathing everybody around you with worry, stress, and fear. Have you ever been in a situation, or you were somewhere and there was a large group of people? Okay. Have you ever been in a group of people that became very angry? You weren't angry, but you walked into it, and they're just these people. They're just super, super angry and upset. and you feel that, and you're going, man, I'm not going to be here. I've got to get out of here. This is not a feeling I enjoy experiencing. Confrontational. In a war or conflict where we're being pitted against each other, what is it? What do you think is experienced? And some of you have probably had that experience. What is it? Worry, stress, fear, anxiety. It's what it is. And this is all, you ever notice that it seems to be incessant, that the rat race, people get swept up into it? It's like you get so conditioned in the city, right? The noises and everything. And then you say, I'm going to take a break after 30 years and I'm going to go out in the country. You go out in the country and it's so absolutely quiet that you can't sleep because you adapted to the noise. And so the noise in the city, you adapt to it and you have to have it because it helps you go to sleep. I know that sounds strange, but these are the influences. And there's been, people go out and they say, I'm going to go move out in the country, and they can't stand it, so they move back to the city. That's how conditioned we become. And habitual. When we set a pattern in our lives, we usually, most of the time, we just stick with that pattern. We do the same thing every day, pretty much. We follow the same directions every day, pretty much. And we do that throughout our lives. Now, the ego mind likes that because that means that you've developed a kind of a place where you feel secure, right? And we get so entrenched in that we don't go outside that circle that we've drawn and where we have our lives. We won't go outside that. Okay. Or you go to a restaurant and you eat the same thing. You order the same thing every single time you go to a particular restaurant. People do that all the time. It's safe because they like it, they enjoy it, so that they order the same thing every time. Now, somebody else goes to a restaurant, they order something different every time because they want to experience as much as they can. So when the person who orders the same thing every time, and they're with somebody, and that person says, why don't you try something new? No. I know what this is. I like it, and it tastes good. I enjoy it. Yeah, but wouldn't you like to experience anything else on the menu rather than just that one dish? And some people are very adamant and say, no, I'm fine. Okay. Now, an interesting thing that Americans don't eat this way, okay? But you go to a restaurant and you have a group of people, right? You don't really order a specific dish for yourself. It's like you order a bunch of different dishes, you put them in the center of the table, and you taste what you want. You're experiencing, right? Things, different things, which keeps us moving more fluidly, and we're experiencing different things. Some people get into this, it's a rut, where they're so used to doing the same thing over and over again every day that they get habitualized and they just cannot stop doing it. It is a total addiction. And why is this? Because it then runs into getting attached to things. And you ever noticed, people say, what's the big deal about being attached to things? What's that? What is that all about? No big deal. Or having expectations. Have you ever noticed that when we get attached to things, it could be anything, right? It's like we will not give that up. Period. because we're so attached to it. And we can't fathom not having it, or not having it in our possession or around us. It's like, all that piece of me would be gone. And it could be nostalgic things that you have memories with that were fond memories, and you want to keep that as a representation of that, and you don't care to lose it. Now, what happens when people are not attached to things? They enjoy them, right? You've probably met people like that. Maybe you're one of them. You don't get attached to things, but you enjoy them. You know that it could be gone at any time, so you enjoy it. And it's like you might come to a point where somebody who's not attached to something maybe has something they really like and enjoyed for years, and then they sell it or they give it away. And it's not a big deal to them. But then there's other people that, hey, I really like that. I'd like to make you an offer for that. Oh, no, that stays with me as long as I'm here. I'm not going to sell that for anything. Is that a negative? Not really a negative. But it teaches us to not be attached to things. It's like I've said, you could love somebody and not be attached to them. Okay? This is why breakups and failed relationships, why they're so disjointed, and a lot of the times a lot of friction and emotions, because the people become attached. And that's when we suffer. When you don't attach yourself, you don't suffer. When you don't have expectations on those attachments, and all of a sudden something happens and you can't get it, but you were so glued to it and you wanted it so bad. And then you let go. You let go of that. You go, okay, fine, I'm not going to think about that anymore. That's a done deal. It's gone. Right? And then it surfaces for you. It's like it comes back and it makes itself available to you when you let go. And you're not just sitting there constantly focused on it. Now, that's our will. Sometimes, on occasion, we can will things, okay? But very rarely do they actually materialize. But sometimes they do, once in a great while. And the reason I'm talking about this broadness of areas or subjects is because it all boils down to one thing. One thing. We don't know who and what we are. We don't live in the heart-mind. We don't reside in the heart-mind. We do not face our fears. We do not face the good and bad parts of ourselves. It's all combined into one thing. Because we don't know who and what we are. And you could read books and go to seminars and talk with gurus and for years and years and years. Yeah, you're going to gain experience. You're going to be able to look at things differently. But when it boils down to it, you still haven't discovered who and what you are, and on top of it, embrace that wholeheartedly. And then understand every single thing in this physical life, everything is temporary. It's a fact. It is temporary. So you imagine somebody who worries, stresses, and fears through their life and accumulate, money, right? And accumulate. And then they die. They spent their whole life being insecure of not having enough money, and they had tons of money. But to them, it wasn't enough because they didn't feel secure, so they kept building it up, getting more and more and more and more. And they would feel okay for a while, but then they'd start feeling insecure again, and so they'd build it up and more and more and more and more. And it was never enough because that's the ego mind's mastery over us. And then we leave. Everything that you build or create or put together on this planet while you're in that physical form, you leave it all. Every bit of it's gone. You don't take anything with you. Now, what do you think would happen if we as a people understood that? Not as a negative, but we fully embraced that and understood that. Don't you believe that we would enjoy every moment of this physical life, no matter what's going on? And then we would discover that we're creating everything we create for ourselves. And we understood this, so that don't you believe that we would become more mindful? That we would start looking at the mind, right? That it's an illusion, and that we have to be mindful. We choose to be mindful of our thoughts. Because we know that every thought that we send out, not the ones that bombard us, not the chatter. Those are other people's thoughts. But the thoughts that you send out. And that you're mindful of those thoughts. So you know, okay, I'm going to send this thought out to the universe. I know exactly what it is. And it's in clarity and detail. And so, boom, it's sent out. And you'll just let it go. Leave it alone. But this is the main reason why all of us suffer. Because we're not in the heart mind. We just suffer. We're in the ego mind yesterday and tomorrow most of our lives. Very rarely do we come to realization in one lifetime that I'm not interested in doing this anymore. I would prefer, and so therefore I will pursue being in the now. Because you're in the now, right? And you don't know, really, truly, none of us do. You don't know if you're going to be there in the next 10 minutes, that you'll be in that body 10 minutes from now. None of us do. Anything's possible. Anything can happen. This is why we focus on the now. Once you get acclimated to being in the now, then you go deeper within the body. Your body relaxes more, much more. You become much less stressful. All of these things that the ego mind instigates fall away, and you become much more tranquil, benevolent, and aware. So in this quiet time, focus on who and what you are. I join you in meditation. I'll return to close us out. Take an easy breath, slow breath in through the nose. And take an easy and slow breath out from the mouth. There is no more need to be stuck. The same old stagnant patterns of your mind are a delusion. You are not stuck anywhere. Wake up. You are a divine being of God. Make the commitment to ignore that old path of lacking money, love, empowerment, and freedom. Don't you already feel hopeless and pathetic enough? For today, practice saying yes to the experience of having access to love, joy, and total freedom. Choose to feel free in your work or lack of work. Choose to feel free in your amazing relationships or your lack of amazing relationships. Choose to feel free in your health or your lack of health. Commit yourself to feeling free. You are free to feel, think, imagine, and believe anything you want. Just claim it today. This is your freedom. You are free to say out loud right now, I am the God force, powerful, alive, and free. Take this with you for the rest of the day into the evening and night and following morning. And we will return here Monday, October 9, 2023, 3:15 p.m. Eastern, to continue our global guided meditation call. Be gentle, kind, generous, and humble with yourself at all times. Be of the highest high, deepest of the deepest, purest of the purest, eternal gratitude at all times. No matter what's going on right now within you or outside of you.